There's something strange that happens when two people become connected, not always by being close, and not even always on purpose, but by thought. You could be walking down the street, just doing your own thing, when suddenly you feel something, a pull, a quiet whisper of their name in your head, a random memory, a feeling that doesn't fit the moment. It's not logical, it's not something you planned, but it hits hard, with the weight of something real. And maybe it is real? We live in a world that tells us to ignore things like this. We're taught to call it coincidence or just tricks of the mind. If you think about someone and they think about you at the same time, you're told it's just your brain trying to find patterns. But what if that's not the full story? What if there's more to it than that? What if when two minds have been emotionally linked, they can still reflect each other even across time, distance, and silence, like ripples from a shared moment echoing in separate places? Human beings aren't robots. We don't just react to stuff automatically. We're deep, we're full of layers, emotionally, mentally, and even spiritually. And when two people build a real connection, especially one built on truth, pain, and deep emotional openness, something invisible is formed. You can't see it or touch it, but you can definitely feel it. And that connection doesn't just disappear because time has passed or because you've stopped talking. Sometimes the thoughts remain, and sometimes those thoughts go both ways. The problem is we live in a world full of noise, distractions, endless scrolling, constant notifications. We've gotten so used to ignoring our inner voice that we no longer trust our feelings. How many times have you felt sudden sadness or had a dream about someone from long ago and told yourself it didn't mean anything? How many times have you felt someone's presence so strongly it was almost like they were in the room with you, but you shut it down because it didn't make sense? But emotions have their own kind of wisdom, and when two people are truly thinking about each other at the same time, something starts to shift. It shows up in random moments, a song playing at just the right time, a feeling you can't explain, a coincidence that seems too specific. These aren't just made-up fantasies. These are signs, echoes, and they deserve to be taken seriously, not blindly believed, but not dismissed either, because they might be pointing to something important. Maybe there's something left unfinished. Maybe there's healing that hasn't happened yet. Maybe the connection is fading and wants to say a final goodbye, or maybe, just maybe, it's guiding you toward a truth you haven't faced yet. But to understand it, you have to be honest with yourself. Let go of the idea that everything has to make perfect sense on paper. Emotional bonds are real, and when they are strong and mutual, they don't always stay quiet. Sometimes they speak in dreams, in passing thoughts, or in unexpected timing. Think about how often you've picked up your phone just before it rings, and it's them. Or how you've opened your social media and there they are, even though you haven't searched for them in ages. Or how you've thought about them strongly in the morning and later found out they asked about you that very day. It's easy to ignore things like this once or twice, but when it happens again and again, you begin to wonder. Now that doesn't mean you should chase every sign like it's a romantic movie. That's not what this is about. The goal isn't to turn this into a fantasy. The goal is to listen, to understand, to reflect. Because just as two people can match each other in chaos, they can also line up when it comes to growth. Sometimes mutual thoughts are signs of longing. Other times they're a signal that someone's ready for something new. And occasionally, they're just your heart's way of finding peace when words were never enough. There's something powerful about knowing someone might be thinking of you at the exact moment you're thinking of them. It carries a kind of sacred energy, and if you feel it, really feel it, don't just wave it away. Ask yourself, why now? What is this moment trying to show me? Is it time to reach out, or is this the moment to release it with grace? Is this about them, Or is it about what they taught me that I still need to learn? Just because something is invisible doesn't mean it's not real. Just because it doesn't fit into logic doesn't mean it's meaningless. The heart often understands things long before the mind is ready to accept them, and when these signs show up, they're not here to mess with you, they're here to wake you up. When two hearts start speaking in silence, it's not a fantasy. It's real, wordless communication, and if you're open enough to really notice, it might say exactly what you've needed to hear. There are moments in life that simply can't be explained. You think of someone out of nowhere, and they contact you. You dream of someone you haven't seen in years, and their name comes up the next day. You feel a wave of emotion for no clear reason, and later learn they were going through something that day. We're told to call that coincidence because it's safer. But what if we stopped brushing these things off? What if we actually paid attention? If you stay curious and look at the patterns, you might begin to see something deeper, something that connects minds and hearts across miles and years. When two people share a real emotional bond, it doesn't fade easily. The body remembers, the nervous system holds it. Even after everything changes, the energy between you can still remain. And when they think of you, and you think of them, that emotional link creates a kind of harmony, like two instruments playing the same tune, even though they're far apart. This doesn't require words or even awareness. You don't need to speak. You don't even need to be close anymore. But the emotion can still be real. These shared moments of timing can carry weight that logic alone can't measure. And when they happen over and over, they force us to ask, are we really so separate from one another? You might be deep in work or talking with a friend when suddenly you're hit with a memory. Not just a passing thought, but a flood of feeling, a look, a shared moment, a silence. And then you wonder, where are they now? Do they feel it too? That's how emotional synchronicity begins. Not just you reaching out in thought, but something in them reaching out to you, even without meaning to. The mind is not a sealed box. It's more like a channel, and when you think of someone with deep emotion, you're sending energy outward. And if they're doing the same, on purpose or not, that's when a strange loop begins. It's not magic, it's the result of emotional imprinting. Your brain is tuned to notice patterns tied to people who've mattered deeply. When those patterns show up from both within and without, something deeper is at work. Time begins to feel strange in those moments. The past feels close. The distance between you starts to fade, not physically, but emotionally. Their name pops up. Their favorite song plays. A shared friend mentions them. These aren't just triggers from memory. These are signs that something is still active, a connection that is still alive. That doesn't mean you're meant to reunite. It doesn't mean you need to act, but it does mean your emotional world is speaking to you, and it's worth listening. When you're thinking of someone and they're thinking of you, it doesn't always mean you're holding on. Sometimes it's just the echo of something unfinished, something real. To notice synchronicity isn't to give up on reason. It's to accept that life is complex, that our minds are made for more than facts and figures. They're built for feelings, meanings, stories, and intuition. When someone becomes part of your emotional journey, that connection doesn't just vanish, it returns. Sometimes without warning, like the tide. That moment when your thoughts and theirs line up. It's a type of connection, whether it leads to answers, healing, or just peace. It's something worth respecting. But remember, this isn't about obsession. It's not about forcing signs to mean something. It's about noticing the conversation happening beneath the surface. It's about trusting that if something feels important, it probably is. And when you sense a connection that goes beyond logic, maybe it's not your imagination. Maybe it's your soul asking you to pay attention to what still needs healing, understanding, or letting go. So when it happens, when you feel it, don't ignore it, but don't worship it either. Use it, learn from it. Let it show you what still matters, what's still alive inside you, what still needs closure. Because real connection doesn't need to be visible to be real. Sometimes it's the quietest signs, the ones that whisper instead of shout, that reveal the deepest truths about love, memory, and meaning. But when you finally reach a place where you can process everything, it often happens after you've grown a bit more, gotten stronger, gained clarity, and built the emotional strength to handle what once felt impossible. That's when they come back to you. Not just as a distant memory, but as a presence, a feeling that's deeply real, even if it makes no logical sense. When this happens to both people, it can spark a silent emotional loop. One person thinks of the other, sending out an emotional wave. The other person might feel it too, even if they don't fully understand why. And suddenly, they're thinking of them again. This creates a back and forth rhythm in the subconscious, where thoughts mirror each other, even when no words are spoken. We often forget how much of our connection with others happens beneath the surface. We assume if no messages are sent, if no calls happen, then the connection must be gone. But the truth is, some of the deepest relationships continue to live inside us, even when they no longer exist in the outside world. These inner bonds keep moving through the subconscious. You might feel their energy in a place they've never been. You might sense their mood without hearing their voice. This isn't just your imagination. It's the leftover emotional energy of closeness. And when both people feel it, it shows up in repetitive thoughts, emotional patterns, and strange coincidences that seem too aligned to ignore. But this pull isn't always peaceful. Sometimes it's confusing. It makes you feel things you thought were long gone. It might even make you question how far you've really come in your healing. But healing isn't about erasing the past. It's about learning from it, making it a part of your story in a way that brings peace. When someone keeps showing up in your thoughts because of that deep subconscious tie, it's not always a sign that you should go back. It's often a message to look inward. What part of you did you lose in that connection? What part still feels unseen or left unsaid? Are they thinking of you too? Not because they want to restart anything, but because their subconscious is also doing the same work. You can't fake real emotional truth, and you can't permanently silence the subconscious. It finds ways to speak through dreams, through repeated thoughts, even through how your body feels. The subconscious isn't interested in comfort. It wants to make you whole. So if you find yourself thinking about someone constantly and it feels out of your control, it could be your inner self trying to finish a part of your story that still feels open. And if they're thinking about you too, you may both be caught in the same inner process, each one trying to make sense of something that never had full closure. But here's something important. Just because the subconscious brings someone back to your mind doesn't mean you have to bring them back into your life. Sometimes it simply means a deeper goodbye is needed. Sometimes it shows you that a piece of your identity is still stuck in that connection, waiting for you to reclaim it. And yes, sometimes it does mean the door is slightly open, but that only matters if both people are ready to walk through it with honesty and maturity. This subconscious pull is very real, but it isn't fate. It's a signal. It's information from your deeper self, asking you to pay attention. So don't rush to make decisions, don't jump to romantic thoughts, and don't try to ignore it either. Sit with it, let it speak, let it guide you, not toward them, but toward a deeper understanding of yourself. Because when two people think of each other at the same time, it's not just about remembering, it's about shared emotional work happening in parallel. And if you can recognize that, it becomes a chance to grow, to become emotionally stronger and wiser. There is a kind of silence that carries more meaning than words ever could. It lives in the space between two people who no longer speak but still feel connected. This silence isn't cold. It's full. It holds emotions, memories, and unspoken meaning. When two people stop talking, whether by decision or by circumstance, it's easy to think the connection will slowly fade away. But often the opposite happens. Instead of silence erasing things, something else shows up. You begin to notice strange patterns. You think about them, and suddenly they show up in your dreams. You feel an emotion that doesn't match your day, and somehow it points right to them. A song plays, or a phrase pops up, and it brings their presence back. These things don't happen by accident. They are signs of emotional alignment. When two people think of each other at the same time, even if they're not talking, the silence becomes full of meaning. It holds an emotional weight that words can't always carry. Many people believe that when a bond ends, the emotional thread is cut clean. But that's rarely true, especially when the connection was deep, messy, or left unresolved. In those cases, silence doesn't mean the feelings are gone. It means they're waiting. Emotions aren't deleted. They're placed aside. Questions aren't answered, they're left hanging. And love isn't wiped out, it's paused. But paused doesn't mean forgotten, it just means sleeping. And when both people are thinking about each other again, that silence becomes a space where frozen emotions begin to melt, all at once, and often without warning. A clear sign that both people are thinking about each other is when you start feeling emotional changes without any clear reason. You might feel restless, nostalgic, or oddly hopeful. Not because anything new has happened, but because emotional energy can travel through thought and memory. When someone thinks about you strongly, especially someone who once had a deep connection with you, that energy can reach you, even if you don't understand it. Even if it feels strange, you feel it in your body and your heart knows it's real. One small thing, a smell, a voice, a place, can open up a wave of memories, even after a long time with no contact. It's not just your imagination, your body remembers. It holds every laugh, every goodbye, every moment that didn't get closure. So when someone you're emotionally tied to starts thinking of you again, it stirs up everything inside you. And that's not just fantasy, it's how emotional bonds work. Even our nervous systems adapt to people we're close to. We learn their rhythms, feel their moods. We create a shared emotional space. And even in silence, that space still exists. Sometimes it shows up in dreams. The subconscious knows how to work through what the mind avoids. You might dream about them full conversations, emotional moments that feel more real than the past ever did, and they might be going through something similar. You might wake up feeling different, like something has shifted, and you know it meant something, even if you can't explain why. That's your inner self, doing the healing you haven't finished yet. These thoughts can even show up in your body. Sudden anxiety, tightness in your chest, a heavy feeling, no clear reason. But it lines up with the emotional energy coming from that person. You don't see the cause, but you feel the result. Some call it being sensitive, but really it just means you're still connected. The emotional bridge is still standing, it's just being quiet. But when both people step on it at the same time, it vibrates again. You might also notice reminders showing up in strange ways. You're not looking for them, but they come anyway. A random message, a line in a book, something someone says that hits you deep. These aren't always mystical signs. Sometimes they're just your mind confirming what your heart already feels. The bond still lives on in some way. But this doesn't mean you should try to go back to the relationship. It doesn't always mean it should be restarted. Sometimes both minds are just trying to find peace where words were never enough. It's the final stage of letting go. That's why silence can feel like a conversation. It's a space where emotions speak instead of words. You may still want answers, clarity, or closure, but silence doesn't always speak in sentences. Sometimes it just shows you how much you still care, how much you still carry. And sometimes it reminds you that something between you is still alive, even if it never becomes anything again. Let that silence be. Don't try to cover it up with distractions. Let it show you what's still inside you. And if you feel like they're going through it too, understand this. It's not weakness. It's proof that what you shared mattered, and that truth alone can be enough. Timing plays a powerful role in human connection. It's not just about when you meet. It's about whether you're both ready, emotionally and mentally. Two people might feel a strong pull toward each other, but if one of them isn't ready inside, the connection can't last. It struggles under the weight of everything unfinished. But if both people are growing on their own, healing, learning, changing, a quiet kind of alignment begins. And when that emotional timing lines up, the pull between you gets stronger. Thoughts of each other come back. Not from loneliness, but from new understanding. You may not think about them for weeks or months, but then, suddenly, they're in your mind again. Not because you called them back, but because something inside you has changed. And often they are changing too, quietly, invisibly. When both people start thinking about each other again after a long break, it usually means something inside both of you has grown. The love or connection that wasn't possible before now feels possible. Not because you need them, but because you see the truth more clearly. You see their flaws, you see your own mistakes, and yet you still feel drawn, not out of fantasy, but because now you understand better. That shift shows maturity. It shows that the timing is finally right. The world often joins in too. You hear the same songs. You run into someone you both knew. You feel closer, even if nothing has changed on the outside. These are not signs to act. They're signs that something is blooming within you both. Whether or not it leads to anything doesn't matter as much. What matters is that this emotional timing brings clarity, peace, and growth. It teaches you that love is not just about desire. It's about capacity. The capacity to understand, forgive, and connect without fear. When you think of each other at the same time, not with longing, but with openness. It shows how far you've come. It shows that the thread between you is no longer tangled in pain, but woven with truth. And even if you never speak again, that shared feeling still matters. It's real. And it marks a powerful moment of growth for both of you.